January 8th, 2011.
There are multiple victims. We need a lot more units here.
6 people died. 13 others were injured when a man opened fire on a group of people trying to make a difference in our community. Since that day, lives have been touched, lessons learned, and a way to honor those injured or killed is now in place. Tucson continues in the push to move forward while honoring those still bearing the physical and emotional scars of the events 3 years ago today. Well, good Wednesday morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Daybreak on the 3rd anniversary of the January 8th mass shooting. I'm Mark Stein.
I'm Conchetta Callahan. Today we're remembering the 6 people who died and the 13 others who were seriously hurt in a tragedy that shook Tucson 3 years ago. That
day, Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords met with her constituents at a Congress on Your Corner event. She asked how she could better serve them in Washington when a gunman opened fire.
Courageous men and women helped subdue the shooter before first responders made it to the scene. And this morning, a memorial sits outside of the Safeway grocery store at Oracle in Ina.
And that's where we find Fox 11's Kevin Adger, who's been out there all morning long speaking to some of the victims and survivors this morning. Kevin.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Conchetta. It was 3 years ago this day outside the Safeway here at Ina and Oracle in front of this memorial where that Congress on Your Corner took place. And earlier this morning, you can see some of that video. Pat Maish stopped by this memorial and laid flowers. You may recall Pat Maish, one of the heroes that is credited with unarming that gunman. That day, there was panic. There was police sirens and ambulance in the area. At 10:10, Jared Loeffner took aim at Giffords. The weapon he used killed 6 people: Christina Taylor Green, Dorothy Morris, Judge John Roll, Phyllis Schneck, Dorwin Stoddard, and Gabe Zimmerman. 13 people were injured, including Gabrielle Giffords, who was shot in the head, and Congress Ron Barber, who was an aide to Giffords at the time of the shooting. A tragic event that shocked Arizona, the country, and the world. But out of such a tragic event, there were a number of people considered heroes, including Daniel Hernandez. Here's what he had to say this morning.
It's an important time to reflect on those who we lost, but I think it's also important to remember that now that it's been 3 years, we have things to do and we have things to accomplish. And that's why I'm so fortunate and so happy to be able to work with such a great group of people, because what has happened is all of those who were involved on that day, whether they were first responders or whether they were victims, have become this really unique family.
You can take a live look at that memorial in front of this Safeway here at Ina and Oracle. The honor is a plaque on that rock. You can see honoring the 6 people that were lost and the 13 people that were injured in that tragic shooting on January 8th. People have stopped by and dropped off flowers. They have stood in front of this memorial, taken a moment to just breathe it in and take everything in. We've also had a couple people that have stopped and shed a tear as they cried as this anniversary on January 8th. Also, Daniel Hernandez told me that later today that group of people will meet at Gabrielle Giffords' house for dinner and talk. Live from Ina Oracle, Kevin Adger, Fox 11, Tucson Now.
Well, former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords is talking about her recovery this morning.
Fox 11's Carissa Planup live in the newsroom breaking down what she has to say and what she's up to today. Carissa, pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, it appears Gabby will be skydiving today in Arizona. That just came down from the Associated Press, and as we all know, she's had to overcome some serious injuries these past 3 years, and there's a lot of support for her. We do have some artwork that someone posted on our Tucson News Now Facebook page reading "Go Gabby." Also some great viewer comments on our social media. Susan Borden-Kilby writes, "I am so glad Gabby survived. She has come a long way and she is very courageous." Also from Monica Salazar Radford, prayers to all the families that were impacted on this horrible day. So I'm going to keep looking for your comments on our Tucson News Now Facebook and Twitter accounts and use the hashtag Jan8. Live in the newsroom, Carissa Planup, Fox 11 Tucson Now.
Congressman Ron Barber was Giffords' district director 3 years ago and also one of the 13 injured in that shooting. Today, Barber, scheduled to speak on the House floor to observe the anniversary of the tragedy. He'll lead a moment of silence following his speech. Earlier this year, Gabby, the vice president, and Ron Barber were at the United States Capitol for a ceremony dedicating a room for her former aide, Gabe Zimmerman, who died in the shooting. Zimmerman, the first staffer to be murdered in the line of duty and the first staffer to have a room dedicated to him at the Capitol complex. And here locally, the Davidson Canyon trailhead many people have visited, honoring Gabe Zimmerman. There is a mural there with Gabe at the entrance of the trail. Of course, he loved to hike. Trailhead designers and Gabe's family did not want to only remember Gabe there at that spot. They also wanted to honor all of those who were injured or killed that day, so there is a plaque with all 19 names of it along the trail. And in Yuma, a new federal courthouse built and named after Judge John Roll, the chief federal judge here in Arizona. When he was killed in the shooting, he had signed off on the courthouse design just days before his death 3 years ago.
Well, since the shooting, the medical community and first responders say they've changed the way they respond to emergencies. That day opened their eyes to improvements that needed to be made to the mass trauma system. Fox 11's Michelle Ashford joins us now live from the University of Arizona Medical Center with those changes they've implemented. Michelle.
Well, right where I'm standing is where most of the victims of that shooting were taken for treatment. Now, the UAMC Center here said that they were able to put their prior experience and their procedure in place of helping a lot of patients all at the same time in a crisis situation, but there is always room to improve. And some of the changes that they've put in place since that day are that they've improved communication among the medical staff, putting in an active shooter procedure so people are educated on what to do in similar situations, and also for any current patients and what they're supposed to do and where they're supposed to go. Now, they added a new TV to the ER so that the nurse responsible for communicating with EMS is more aware of what's happening at the scene, mainly through live TV news reports just like this one. And there's tightened security when it comes to high-profile patients and any visitors. But there's also a new system that rapidly clears a visitor to a patient in critical care, so they waste zero time in seeing their loved one. Now, Tucson Fire says they found a faster way to triage out in the field. They researched and bought a new system that did away with tags that they had to fill out in the field and went to color-coordinated system with red ribbons, yellow, and green. Now, today, UAMC says they're continuing to serve the community, but they're always looking for ways that they can improve. And in fact, that a lot of the funding that came flooding in after this shooting actually helped boost their mental health treatment facility here. Reporting live at UAMC, Michelle Ashworth, Fox 11, Tucson Now.
Michelle, thank you. Local authorities say the January 8th mass shooting brought the issue of mental illness to their doorstep. Jared Loeffner is now spending the rest of his life behind bars for the crime. Court documents show he suffered from schizophrenia. FBI statistics indicate 2/3 of all mass shootings involve someone who suffers from a mental illness. Instead of taking them to jail, police can now bring them to the local crisis response center. Pima County was the first in our area to launch a mental health unit last year. Tucson's mental health unit will officially be up and running by the end of this month. The city and county are also working together to help create a regional mental health unit. Police say invitations have already been sent out to every law enforcement agency here in southern Arizona, every treatment provider, and even the mental health courts.
Well, as Tucson continues to move forward from the January 8th shooting, many local organizations have shown their support. We're taking a look at two of those created in response to the tragedy. Of course, the Christina Taylor Green Memorial Foundation and the Fund for Civility, Respect, and Understanding, originally started by Ron Barber. Fox 11's Maria Genova live on the Northwest Side this morning with more on these organizations. Maria.
Good morning, Mark. The Fund for Civility, Respect, and Understanding. It's a long name, but a big cause. We're talking about the organization that, like you said, Ron Barber founded right after the shooting. It was actually put together in response to the shooting, and it has two purposes, both for education. One, to educate people about anti-bullying and also mental health illness. So far, the fund has helped several organizations and hundreds of people across southern Arizona, but they hope to do more in 2014. Now, coming in February, the group will launch a mental illness stigma reduction program called Mental Health Safe Space. It's a free 90-minute training to teach people to know the facts, learn the signs, and provide help to those who they suspect may need it. Now, the training is open to downtown businesses and the public. I was able to speak to the executive director. She tells me that it's important to be aware of mental health issues and not be afraid to tackle it.
How do we have conversations about this so that people don't, slide through the cracks and wind up, very, very, very ill, as in the case of the shooter on January 8th.
Now, if you take a look at your screen, the Fund for Civility is looking to raise money to keep its mission going. In about a week and a half from today, organizers are holding a benefit concert at Hotel Congress. All that information you need to know right there on your screen. We'll also have it on our website, TucsonNewsNow.com. And coming up in about 30 minutes, we'll talk more about the Christina Taylor Green Memorial Foundation and exactly what they've done in the community. I'm actually live on the northwest side near McGee and Shannon. This is one of the parks dedicated in Christina Taylor Green's honor. We're going to have much more on that coming up in just a little bit. But for now, live on the northwest side, Maria Hechanova, Fox 11 Tucson Now.
And of course, many of you commenting and tweeting on this, the 3rd anniversary. Here you can see on my Facebook page, different posts I put up this morning. Our cameras were actually rolling, as you see right here, as Pat Maish, one of the heroes from that day, the mass shooting that day, she was actually able to help take away the gun from the shooter that morning on January the 8th. And you can see right there someone posting underneath, prayers to all the families that were impacted on that horrible day. And you can see already people commenting about Gabrielle Giffords this morning and of course her heroic trip, which will be skydiving later this afternoon. We're keeping you updated on social media all day long. Don't forget to check in with our Tucson News Now Facebook page and continuing coverage, of course, on air, online, and on your mobile device.
And good morning, 8:10 right now. And as you are out and about today, temperatures are warming fairly quickly here this morning. We have plenty of sunshine right now in Tucson, around 45 degrees, 63 by lunchtime today. Our average high 65 degrees. We get past that this afternoon and hit a high of around 70 today, 64 at 6 o'clock, 56 at 8 o'clock. Now by tonight, we're seeing a thicker wave of clouds come in. That thicker wave is hinting at a chance of rain in the desert and even some snow on top of the mountains as we head into Thursday. We'll take a complete look at your forecast coming up in just minutes. Let's take a quick look at Interstate 10 right now. Things are looking pretty good on the highway at I-10 and Ruth Roth. Still a little bit of slow though at Ruth Roth. There was an accident there. Looks like it has been cleared, but we do have some residual slowing there as you head towards town on Interstate 10 from the northwest side of Tucson.
Well, Fox 11 time now is 8:12 here on your Wednesday, January the 8th, 2014.
Well, we're continuing our coverage of the January 8th shooting. You are taking a live look at that memorial where the shooting did take place. You're watching Fox 11 Tucson Now, Daybreak.